There I am. Okay. Good evening. Welcome. As we gather here today in this sacred space of memory and reflection, I feel both humbled and honored to open our celebration of the incredible life of Reverend Glen Morton Ganaway, a beloved friend, a cherished teacher, and a guiding light in our community. Glen's passing has left a void in our hearts. But today, we come together not just in grief, but in gratitude for the countless blessings he bestowed upon us. His teachings, his laughter, and his unwavering kindness are gifts that continue to resonate within each of us and to resonate in the space he once so vibrantly filled. As we begin this evening, let us hold in our hearts the essence of what Glen taught us: love, peace, and the joyous celebration of life in all its forms. We miss him dearly, yet we are grateful to carry forward the light of his spirit in every act of kindness we extend. Thank you for being here to honor Glen's memory. Let's cherish this time together as we remember a truly extraordinary soul who touched so many lives. And now we will have a song by his beloved, the love of his life, Reverend Yolanda.
Oh, hi, everyone. I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you, Jacquelyn. And just before I sing this song, I just want to say a couple of things. The two songs I'm going to sing today are songs that I sung at his bedside when he left us. So, um, I just want to quickly sort of go over a few things about his life. I'm later going to sing a song about our actual love story, and I'm going to tell you about that then. But but right now, I wanted to just give you a little bit of background on Glen's life. He wrote a biography of himself, and I wanted to share a bit of it um, because it's in his own words, and this is on my website, yolanda.net/Rev Glen Ganaway. And this is what he said. Glen considers himself a product of the military industrial complex, the Deep South, and the Southern Baptist Church. And today he identifies as an anarchist. What he meant by the word anarchist was no specific leader, that we all have intuitive wisdom within us to guide us. Glen was born in Anchorage, Alaska, to a deeply religious family. His father, Sam Ganaway, was a Baptist minister who was a Navy chaplain, and his mom, Jewel Ganaway, of course, was the most perfect mom. And his brothers, Reuben and Neil, and his sister, Joanna, traveled all over the country and the world, and lived in many, many different places. Glen described himself as the odd one out, and he said he had few friends growing up, but I beg to differ, because many of those friends have texted me and messaged me expressing how much they love him, and he realized later on in his life how many friends he actually did have growing up. Um, he actually, in high school, he double lettered in track and gymnastics, and he was very involved in school theater and choral groups, and he was the youth minister in his church for a while. he came out very early as a gay man, and we shared that in common. I came out in 4th grade, and he also came out very, very young. And because of that, he felt like he was bullied an awful lot when he was young. But all of these things created the wonderful person that he was.
Sure.
In the 80s, he did acquire a drug habit that actually caused complications were uh, that were played a part in his passing. But he cleaned up in the 90s. He joined the Radical Fairies, which is a pagan anarchist group of genderqueer people, which I'm also a part of. And he moved to New York City in 2001 and to be with the Fairies, and that's when we met. And together we discovered A Course in Miracles. We discovered Regina Akers, and we went to seminary, and we were ordained interfaith ministers at One Spirit Interfaith. Glen went on to acquire an integral mentor certification and a BS in healthcare management. And today I'm in our apartment that we shared together for 20 years. And he, in New York, he facilitated a very long-running A Course in Miracles group that he was so very proud of, and loved, and it still continues today. I think it's going on 13 years now. We meet once a week, and we're still doing it. And the joy that he had around the Wednesday night, and also his wonderful presence here at Awakening Together. I want to say before I sing this song that Awakening Together was so meaningful to him and so absolutely precious to him. He finally felt at home here with every one of all of you. Your love for him, your acceptance of him totally, and his quirky behavior, which I loved. He felt so at home here. And I just wanted you all to know that. Every single one of you, he loved and was so grateful for. So, yeah, there's so much I could say, but right now, I'm just gonna sing this song, which I sang at his bedside, also not knowing that he had made a pact with my cousin Tony that which one of them passed away first, that they would tell me to sing this song at his bedside. And I didn't know that when I took my guitar that night. So I intuitively didn't know it. And it's a song that I think a lot of you know of mine. And today I'm reflecting on the lyrics and seeing how appropriate they are for Glen in his life. Oh, let me turn on sound for musicians. Hold on just 1 second. Oh, here we go. Okay. Why do you feel so out of place? So out of touch with the human race? You don't seem to understand why your brother won't lend a helping hand. Why do people tear apart? Ooh, your tender heart. Why does the nighttime seem so dark? When the light shines inside your heart, we are we're struggling to be human. You tell me of the things you feel, you push away, then you pull me near. You tell me of your fantasies. I love the way that you speak honestly. Why is it so hard to love the one you've been dreaming of? Don't you see yourself in me? Don't you see what we can be? We are angels. We are angels, and we're struggling to be human. We are angels. We are angels, and we're struggling to be human. Time heals all pain. That's the way of the world. Time will bring you around again. Ooh, that's the way of the world. We are angels. We are angels. And we're struggling to be human. We are angels. We are angels. And we're struggling to be human. We are angels. We are angels. And we're struggling to be human. La 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 la. Okay, I'll turn it back over to Jacquelyn.
Oh, thank you, Rev Yolanda. That was just gorgeous. Thank you. And now Rhoda, our President Minister Reverend Rhoda Makled, will read a poem for us. Rhoda?
Hello, my dear friends. Yolanda, that was so incredibly beautiful. We miss him dearly. He was such a bright and shining light in our lives. And so the morning that our dear Reverend Glen Ganaway passed, we were leading a meditation in the sanctuary. And that morning I was guided to pick up this book called Let Us Dance, and it's poetry by Shalane Harkin. And I flipped it open and landed on this page. And our dear Yolanda was in meditation with us, and it just so happens that it happened to be a poem about grief in a book of poetry that is not about grieving. So we trust that the universe has its hand in everything. And so with that, I'm going to read this poem to you from Shalane Harkin. It is called The Great Ceremony. Bring not your pity to the great ceremony of another's grief, but rather bring your honor and celebration to the great sacred room of another soul's bravery, as through their tears they shed the old world. Each deep cry is a rite of passage that should be held as such. Lay your reverence, respect, and gratitude upon the altar of your witnessing. You are on sanctified grounds. You've been led into the temple of transformation. What a great privilege to witness truth, flooding another's body. Each deep cry is a contraction of the birth of our new world. And each of us is called to do our heart's labor, to be her mother. Love you, dear. Back to you, Jacquelyn.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rhoda. And now we'll have a message from our founding minister, Reverend Regina Dawn Akers. Regina.
All right. Hey, everybody. Hello, Yolanda. I was trying to remember how long I've known you and Glen, and I just can't put a number on it. It's been longer than almost everybody in this room. I do remember meeting you. I just don't remember what year that was, but the way I remember it, we were in New Hampshire. Is that correct? And at that time, you introduced yourself to me as Roger. And I think I said something like, well, if I just start yelling at you, don't worry about it, because my brother's name is Roger and I've yelled at him all my life. That's my memory of meeting you two. And that was a long, long time ago. And I also remember that when the two of you joined Awakening together, I was so happy that you were here. And I think everybody else is too. I'm not alone in that. But anyway, I'm thrilled to come here and share. When I was first invited to speak today, the very first thing that popped into my mind was to share from NTI Acts chapter 1, and that's never changed. So that's what I'm going to do. NTI Acts chapter 1 is interesting because that's the chapter where Jesus ascends into heaven. Of course, he was first crucified, as we all remember, and died, buried, and then resurrected, and lived for some time as the resurrected teacher, and then ascended to heaven. And so for the people who knew Jesus, that was the goodbye or the loss, because that was what appeared to be the permanent leaving, right? When they watched him ascend to heaven. So let me just read to you from NTI. NTI says, "The power of all truth is within you. The story of Jesus is helpful to you as a guide, a tool, and a symbol. But the answer for you lies not in his story. If it had, he would have stayed on earth to provide the answer to you. But Jesus left your realm and returned to the Father, that you may be freed to find your answer within yourself. And now I'm going to skip a paragraph. When Jesus ascended and promised the baptism of the Holy Spirit, he only pointed the apostles to seek where the Holy Spirit already was. In this way, they learned not to look outside for teaching and guidance, but to clearly look within. I'm going to share a little more, but I want to tell you why this popped into my mind. Not that I know why it popped into my mind. I guess what I really mean to say is when it popped into my mind, it had a why I was sharing it that came with it, right? When there's a loss, like the loss of a loved one, especially in Yolanda's case, a loss of someone as dear as Glen. There's I don't know what word I want to use. I'm going to use the word gap. There's a gap that's kind of left where they were a part of who I am. They were a part of my life, my thoughts, my plans, my frustrations. I mean, right? They were intertwined with me, right? And so when they leave, there's a gap where we were one in a way. And when it popped into my mind to share from NTI Acts 1, the way it popped into my mind was that when one leaves this earthly plane and one stays, for the one who stays, it's time to find out who I am without you. What my guidance is without you. How God wants to fill that gap. So with that said, I'm going to continue reading. I'm going to read the last paragraph again and continue from there. When Jesus ascended and promised the baptism of the Holy Spirit, he only pointed the apostles to seek where the Holy Spirit already was. In this way, they learned not to look outside, but to clearly look within. This is my lesson to you. I, being of course the Holy Spirit, I am here to help you for a time. But my purpose is to teach you to look and listen within. For always your guidance must come from there, because always the answer is there. The first step to listening within for the guidance of the Holy Spirit is prayer. But to hear him truly, you must pray in a way that opens to him. Prayer is not a time of asking for what you want. Prayer is a time of putting aside that which you want and opening to any guidance that he would give. Any guidance is italicized, which means it felt emphasized when I heard it, right? Prayer is a time of putting aside that which you want and opening to any guidance that he would give. Prayer is a time of gratitude for his love and wisdom. Prayer is a time of surrender because you seek nothing less than his love, wisdom, and guidance for you. Therefore, pray in this way. Father, I do not know what is best for me now, in this time and this place, that I may be led back to you. Because I cannot see the path I am ready to walk. Take my hand and send me your voice to guide me. I shall go where it asks me to go, and I shall do as it asks me to do, in joy and peace and certainty. The second step to listening for guidance is this. You must trust yourself. Actually, it just says you must trust. You must not only trust the voice and the guidance you receive, you must also trust yourself. For the guidance comes from you through your knowing that is beyond conscious choice. To doubt yourself is to doubt your guidance. So you must trust yourself and trust what comes. So, of course, Yolanda, none of us know what's next. But that's the message I felt to share from the very, very beginning. And so that's the message I share. We all miss Glen. You know, I wasn't in the sanctuary a lot, but I think everybody knows I listen to the recordings. And so I'm so used to Glen piping up and sharing this bit of wisdom and that bit of wisdom, you know, and it takes some getting used to. In fact, in this time since he's passed, there have been times when, you know, like, for example, in the Tao Te Ching teaching, David may say something like, does anybody else have anything, you know, does anybody have anything they want to share? You know, and there's this, where's Glen's voice? You know, this is when Glen speaks, right? So there's a gap there. And that gap belongs to God. And that's who we need to give the gap to. I feel that was the message I was brought here to share today, and I'm grateful to share it. And we love you. Thank you.
Grateful for you, Regina. Thank you. Thank you. So inspiring. And now we'll have a song from Ellie and Cam Kennedy.
Hey guys.
Hey, can everybody hear us? I'm so honored to be here. I'm so glad to share today. I think we should, we have two songs actually, and I'll talk in between them, I think, instead of now. So the first song is going to be from A Course in Miracles, and it's lesson 222. God is with me, I live and breathe in him. God is with me. He is my source of life, the life within, the air I breathe, the food by which I am sustained, the water which renews and cleanses me. He is my home, wherein I live and move, the spirit which directs my actions, offers me its thoughts, and guarantees me safety from all pain. He covers me with kindness and with care, and holds in love the sun he shines upon, who also shines on him. How still is he who knows the truth of what he speaks today. Father, we have no words except your name upon our lips and in our minds as we come quietly into your presence now and ask to rest with you in peace a while.
Renews and cleanses
He speaks today. Father, we have no words except your name upon our lips and in our hearts as we come quietly into his presence now and ask to rest with you in peace a while. God is with me. I live and move in him. God is with me. He is my source of life, the light within, the air I breathe. God is my home wherein I live and move. Amen. What's going on?
I changed guitars.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in that prayer from A Course in Miracles. Reverend Yolanda and Reverend Glen and Cam and I are rather new friends, which is the strangest phenomenon because we're the only other people that I know in the entire world that do Course in Miracles songs for the last 30 years. So, and then once we met, I hate this comment, but deep dove into Yolanda's back catalog and just totally couldn't believe all the hymns and just all the spirit and the church with the 2-drink minimum that you guys did. And then we really became friends during the pandemic. I've been on Yolanda's spiritual music show, and they have also performed and or spoken at different peace events that we've held, that we still did hold over the pandemic. And during the pandemic was one of the times that Cam and I played for the Parliament of World's Religions, which we've been a part of since 2001. It's every few years in a different country. And we've just been blessed that our submissions have been taken and we've gotten to perform, internationally with it. And so unbeknownst really to anyone, Cam made a submission for us four, Yolanda, Glen, Cam, and I, to talk about, gay spirituality and transness and acceptance. And I just pictured Glen saying like sentences from A Course in Miracles, and of course me just backing up Reverend Yolanda, which would be a total honor. And then any Course in Miracles songs any Course in Miracles songs that we sing, Yolanda gets on the mic right away and says, "Oh, I've already picked out a harmony for that." So, so unbeknownst to us, Cam put in a submission for us all. He also put in a submission for the two of us for the Kindness Academy, which is our umbrella kind of name. And so we all got chosen. Our submission, there was 1,200 submissions or something. And so we had to break the news to them that they were invited to come to Chicago. And unfortunately, they couldn't make it. It was such short notice and so much going on. And we really, we just put submissions in because who knows what's going to happen, so it wasn't like we wanted to get their hopes up, and make all these plans if our thing didn't get chosen, Anyway, I thought it was just so important to keep the space and not give away that time slot. So I had Reverend Yolanda make a video with one of our favorite songs, Queero, on it. And it might have had Angels on it too. But I have so many favorites. It did, yeah. I have so many Reverend Yolanda favorites. And just so many. Glen's teaching just makes me laugh because he can take the toughest part of A Course in Miracles and just say it in the most joyous, haphazard way, like do, oh, okay, well, I was just, wondering whether or not I exist at all and whether or not anything means anything to me. And that's how I learned. My dad was master teacher of A Course in Miracles, and I went through a huge grief when his body passed away, and but he taught through laughter. Oh my God, I don't remember a day that we weren't laughing our butts off. And he also acquired, when he went to India to meet with, there's a lot of stories, but he was named in India, he was named the spiritual fool. And that really reminds me of Glen. And fool in English is not what fool means. It's a revered thing to be called that, just like it is to be called a spiritual jester or a spiritual joker. It really means that you lay out the truth so flatly that it's like the person's ego head is cut off and they better not move their head, otherwise they're going to find out about it later while they're laughing. Like you're laughing and then, but the truth is still there and it still hits very deeply. And his love was like that too. His Shakti energy that Yolanda, revs up with the different styles of music. And it was like meeting siblings that I've known for my entire awakening, really, really. And for the next song, I just wanted to go over that, about that idea about being a fool for God, and a spiritual jester and a jokester. And just to let you know that the next song we wrote, and it's meant in the highest honor and the highest regard. First, Cam has to put on his captain's hat. And can you bring up the words instead of looking at this? I think we should do it that way instead. My bells. Do you want me to?
Yeah, you want to control? All right.
This is called Listen to the Voice Who Likes You. Can you make it so I can scroll it up and down?
You should be able to, baby.
No. Oh, okay.
Oops.
Oh, no. Sorry.
Sorry, we
Just don't touch anything.
It's a lot of energy.
So I apologize. There's a lot of energy. Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Wait, we're frozen.
Oops.
Hang on, we're frozen.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not sure. I think we,
Wow, we blew it out.
yeah.
Wow, that's too bad.
I'm gonna close it and reopen it.
Looks like they're frozen now. Wow. Are they, Shauna, can you tell, are they still in the room?
Here, we're here.
Yay!
Sorry, everything just blew up.
I can't even. Okay, here we go.
Okay, this time we'll try it again.
Can you hear us okay? Okay, here we go.
This is my song. I'm coming to you as a voice beyond the veil. Just had to write a song because you know I'm gonna keep singing and dancing and loving and teaching and preaching. So let's do a little breathing and an oh. Join up with me, your favorite anarchist preacher. Stay with me, your favorite spiritual jester. Listen to the voice who likes you. She'll tell you we are one. She'll tell you how to act like it. So, sister, act like it. Listen to the voice who likes you. She'll tell you to have fun. She'll tell you move into your heart. So, sister, take the I'll be with you all along because you know I'm gonna keep singing and dancing and loving and teaching and preaching. So let's do a little breathing and an oh. Join up with me and the love of my life, Yolanda. We want you to know we feel your love. Oh, listen to the voice who likes you.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. Thank you. What fun. What fun. It's perfect. And now, Reverend Carolyn McLaury will deliver the eulogy. Reverend Carolyn?
Thank you so much, Jacquelyn and everyone here. Oh, I just take a deep breath because I need to take a deep breath. Maybe two. I want to start this evening with a poem from the Sufi poet Rumi. This is a poem that Glen liked and I think really fits in with everything that we've been saying so far this evening.
Beverly.
So the title is Whoever Brought Me Here. All day I think about it, Then at night I say it. Where did I come from? And what am I supposed to be doing? I have no idea. My soul is from elsewhere. I am sure of that. And I intend to end up there. This drunkenness began in some other tavern. When I get back around to that place, I'll be completely sober. Meanwhile, I'm like a bird from another continent, sitting in this aviary. The day is coming when I fly off, but who is to know who, I'm sorry, but who is it now in my ear who hears my voice? Who says the words with my mouth? Who looks out with my eyes? What is the soul? I cannot stop asking. If I could taste one sip of an answer, I could break out of this prison for the drunks. I did not come here of my own accord, and I cannot leave that way. Whoever brought me here will have to take me home. This poetry, I never know what I'm going to say. I don't plan it. When I'm outside the saying of it, I get very quiet and rarely speak at all. Thank you, Yolanda, for inviting me to share words of Glen, about my relationship with Glen and with you and with all of us, how wonderful Glen was. These words really can't convey the words that I had, the relationship and the words I had with Glen. Glen and I shared many words together. I think he loved his words. We loved each other and we challenged each other in so many ways. Our relationship was fun, honest, authentic, vulnerable, touching, and challenging. He was a smart man, a very smart man. And these are all the things that I loved and still love about him. I have often said that he is my brother from another mother. He is family to me, and our meeting was, at least in my eyes, very auspicious. It happened over 10 years ago when I met Glen and Yolanda. I had been invited to come to their Wednesday evening A Course in Miracles gathering and discussion by a friend, mutual friend. And so I did, but before I went, I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, Spirit spoke to me and said, you are going to meet someone of consequence for your life. I knew in my heart and my soul that these two people were going to be important to my life. And so I became a regular attendee on the Wednesday evenings of A Course in Miracles in New York City, where we gathered for many, many years until the pandemic. I would call it my weekly therapy group, a place where I and others could come be ourselves wherever we were in life. We were accepted with love and patience and understanding. He was so loving, and in his loving, he gave me permission to be loving, to be the authentic Carolyn, to bring out some of my hidden quirks, my silliness, my joy, my playfulness to life. When we did things together, I felt his deep, abiding affection for me, like a warm blanket of complete friendship wrapped around me, warm and accepting, loving, and even challenging and playful. He brought so much of life to so many wonderful things. We created several rituals together around the turning of the year. We created joy by organizing a retreat weekend on Halloween, also known as Samhain, several years back. Some of you attended that retreat. Glen and I worked month by month and week by week to pull it together, to figure out the programming, what was going to happen when, and what was the intent we wanted to embody for the entire retreat. It was something that I'm really proud I created with Glen. It was a lot of fun. It was deeply meaningful for me to do that. We had a bonfire, created workshops and rituals, and even invited participants to wear Halloween costumes on Halloween. We gave a great deal of thought and hard work, and especially created a letting go bonfire. And we made these packets in brown sandwich bags with cedar shavings and pine cones and the stuff that makes flames call all different colors. And we threw those onto the bonfire to let go of our 1 year and step into the next. Other things we did together, we celebrated our mutual love of music. We went to classical music performances. He and I went to the Messiah in Carnegie Hall. We went and heard kirtan in Central Park. We went to museums, visited the Cooper Hewitt. We enjoy taking walks in the park and getting the fresh air. We had a lot in common. I am so proud. Glen and I and a mutual friend went to the Women's March on January 21st, 2017. We boarded a bus in Manhattan and took the long trip down to Washington. It was amazing to be with all of these people come together. Oh my gosh, a sea of humanity. And just so much creativity of people protesting and having their voices heard in mass. And doing things with him gave me hope, because there were many times when I could lose my hope. And I would talk to Glen and he'd help me find it again. He'd help me find my hope again. So we did amazing things together. Also, Glen was very generous. For many years, twice a year, he would come to my apartment and put in my air conditioner, because my air conditioner would have to go in the top of the window, and I was not lifting no metal air conditioner in the top of a window. I needed a guy to do it. And so this became a bi-yearly thing. He'd come and put it in, and then in November, he'd come and take it out. But we would also then end up going to my local Irish pub, and we would enjoy ourselves on burgers and beers and solve all the world's problems, until next time we saw each other, which was probably the next week, at A Course in Miracles. And I know this has also been mentioned, church with a 2-drink minimum was kind of the second thing that I went to the Wednesday night Course in Miracles. We would gather it at the Sidewalk Cafe in the Village. And we would order those, pink lemonade slushies, which who knows what liquor they had in them, but man, they were good. And we would sip on those and have a performance. And it was really, I ended up there quite frequently. And I also ended up at many of Yolanda's performances. I really believed in supporting both of them in whatever they did. And if I could show up, I did it. Because I loved being in their company, and I loved just sharing time with them. He was, and he still is, an amazing man, someone who was grounded in his expression of masculinity, someone who made it safe for women. He was someone who admitted his shortcomings, his frustrations, and being judgmental and stubborn. I could identify with those very easily. We would counsel each other to, take a chill. He became and remains a key person in my life. My beloved Glen, I miss you dearly. I miss you dearly. I miss you dearly. Thank you.
Thank you for that lovely message. And now we'll hear from Rev Yolanda. She's got another song for us, as well as some commentary.
I do. Oh, first of all, I just want to thank everyone for everything you've done and said tonight, and Regina. I remembered. I think this is the year we met. I think it was 2007 because I remember you had just published NTI, and so I actually I have the copy of NTI that you signed for us. And yes, indeed, I was presenting as Roger at that time. here's Regina's signature. She said, "Glen, Roger, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to meet you this weekend. I look forward to seeing you again. Love, Regina." That meant so much to us. We were so taken with NTI and with you, and I'm so glad that we did finally, certainly, wind up at Awakening together. It was such a joy it still is for both of us. Oh, and Carolyn, my goodness, thank you. You were definitely like a sister to him, and thanks for reminding me of all those things you did together. That some of those things I had forgotten. Oh goodness. And thank you, everyone who's here, for showing up. And our Wednesday night group, I'm so grateful you're here, Aaron, and I think there's some other folks here. I think Nikki, when she lived in New York City, used to come, and I haven't been able to see everybody that's in the room. But one of our Reverend friends, Reverend Jane Galloway, is here, and I thank you, Jane, for being here. Jane started a church called Sanctuary here in New York City, and it's really one of the first places that Glen was able to preach and deliver his message of love and A Course in Miracles. And in fact, it was where we started regularly having the Course in Miracles group on Wednesday nights that we've been doing, like I said, almost for, I guess, 13 years at this point. Oh, and that's Glen beeping me because, I always keep his phone on. So anyway, I want to thank you, Jane, for being here, and Aaron and Nikki, and love you too. And so anyway, so many folks that have been a part of our lives over the years, and certainly our wedding, which I'm going to tell you about. But anyway, I want to tell you before I play this next song. This is my love song to Glen. I wrote it early in our relationship. We met at a friend's Thanksgiving celebration, and that was 20 years ago. So I'm thinking it was 2003 or 2004, but I think it was 2003. So that was a Radical Fairy gathering, which we were so excited to be a part of that group. And our relationship was such a love story. It was such a, if you've ever seen the movie Love Story with Ali MacGraw and Ryan O'Neal, it was so much like that. We met, we fell in love like instantly, and we hardly ever left each other's side for all those years. And yes, you're right, Regina, there is a gap. There is a big gap. And that's why I'm crying so much. And I give this gap to God. I give this gap to God. Anyway, we met, we fell in love. He wouldn't move in with me right away, which I really wanted him to. But he said, no, I've never had my own apartment. I've never lived by myself because, you know, he had a big family and they moved around a lot and they were always, you know, living together and everything. And then he moved to New York and he had roommates. And he said, no, I'm not going to move in with you. I'm going to have my own apartment. If you know Glen, he was very adamant. When he got adamant, he was very adamant about what he wanted. So I just like, okay, great. That's awesome. So I helped him set up his apartment and we built a loft bed and we did so many wonderful things. I created a whole series of paintings. Actually, this painting right here is one that I created at his apartment over in Bed-Stuy. And there's many more. They're all over the place. And then Glen bought me an classic Indian cuisine cookbook. And he said, here, I want you to learn how to cook Indian food. So I did. But of course, we're both from the South, so I love Southern cooking. And so there he goes again, because we're talking about cooking, and this was so important to him. We created a cuisine that we used to call El Vishna, a combination of Elvis and Vishnu. And it combined like Southern favorites with Indian spices. So I actually wrote the cookbook in longhand, and I have it over here in my shelf. Someday I'm hoping to publish it. But those were just amazing years. And then he moved in here, and at his apartment, actually, we picked up a copy of A Course in Miracles. We had both looked at it like in the 80s, but couldn't really navigate it then. And he still had it. So he said, have you ever read this book? And I said, well, yeah, I remember, back in the day I had tried to read, I couldn't read it. So we started reading it together. And that was before we went to seminary. That was before we met Regina. It led us on our path. It really began this particular path that we're on. And so he found this retreat in New Hampshire, and he said, we're going to this retreat. This is the Course in Miracles retreat. And it's actually where I met the whole Course in Miracles community. Teddy Pope was alive at that time, and all those great folks from Massachusetts and all over. I can't remember, but everybody that I know practically in the Course in Miracles community, except Ellie and Cam. Thank you, you guys. I just now met you guys. We met at that retreat. It was amazing. So we came back. We decided to go to seminary. We graduated seminary. And, I graduated in 2011, he in 2012. But in 2011 was when New York State sanctioned, LGBTQ marriage. So we were sitting here watching that live happen in the Senate House. And when it passed and everybody was applauding on the screen, Glen got on his knees right here. Right here in this apartment. And he asked me to marry him. And of course I said yes immediately. And I decided that we were going to get married in the New York City Halloween parade. Not just watching the parade, but in the parade. So he was thinking, oh, okay, well, next year, because, you need time to plan an event like that big. But I was like, no, this year, 2011. And somehow, God made it happen. Like, heaven and earth was moved for us to make it happen. And many of you in this room right now were there. And I can't thank you enough for being there and for being here today, because it just really begins and closes this particular chapter. We dressed Now, speaking of Glen as the jester, he really took that on. He really considered himself the sacred jester, and even went so far as to wear a jester outfit at his ordination at one spirit, which was like, oh goodness, what are you doing? And we actually have another one spirit minister here in the room, Barbara Ann Michaels, who calls herself the sacred jester. I forget exactly how you call yourself, Barbara. You can put it in the, but she also related to the sacred jester. So that is an accurate description, and this is one of Glen's crowns that he purchased as of recently, actually. So he always, to the very end, considered himself the coyote, or the sacred jester. And we started Church of the 2 Drink Minimum in our Wednesday night Course in Miracles group. Church of the 2 Drink Minimum went on for many years, and it included so many wonderful friends. Some of who are in the room and have attended and were a part of. Aaron Betterson, who's in the room now, is a part of our Wednesday night group, and also has sung at Church of the 2 Drink Minimum. Adam Shapiro, who's in the room now, used to sing at Church of the 2 Drink Minimum, has also been a guest of mine on Sounds of Awakening. So all of those wonderful things happened, and then COVID came, and we focused our energies in Awakening Together, and I'm so glad that we did, because honestly, and as I've said before, Glen finally felt that he was totally loved and accepted, and for everything. He didn't hide anything from you guys, and he said what he said, and he acted the way he acted. And sometimes he's sitting here talking, he was a big talker. So, he would be sitting here talking. I'd be poking his butt like, come on, wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up. Oh, goodness. Oh, right. OSIS class of 2012. Glen was the best dressed in our class, Reverend Elia says. And Barbara Ann Michaels says, Jester of the Peace, loves Yolanda and Glen. Yeah, so these are folks that we went to One Spirit with. Anyway, so, COVID happened. We became such an integral part here in Awakening Together. And I want to tell you this, and then I'm going to sing this song. It was such a shock, to all of us that he passed away. Such a shock, because we used to joke that, well, I'm HIV positive, so we would always expected, me to go first or whatever. But Glen was always the epitome of health. I mean, he didn't have any. I would go get my blood work done, and the doctor would be like, ooh, cholesterol, blood sugar, blood pressure, all this stuff. You got to take pills and be careful and eat the right things. Well, Glen had nothing. He would go to the doctor. His blood work would come back completely clean. He'd be like, la 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 la. Oh gosh, he did. He was crazy like that. I mean, we just didn't think anything was wrong. But what happened was, when he was a IV drug user, he contracted hepatitis C, and we didn't know about that for many years. And even though he was cured of hepatitis C in 2017 or 18, somewhere along in there, because of the drugs now that do that. We didn't know that his liver had been affected, and anyway, so there were a lot of factors that played into his sudden passing. But I want to tell you that I've never experienced love like that before. And he truly was the greatest love of my life. you mostly think of you. Doesn't mean you don't know I'm in the room. 'Cause with your deep thoughts you are preoccupied. And still you're the great love of my life. You need me to cook or you won't eat. You need me to help you find your keys. And when I text you love notes, you reply. That's how I know you're the great love of my life. You are always cold. I'm a sweat machine. You can read more than I can breathe. You're the great love of my life. Your beauty would be beyond compare if you just let me fix your hair. This is something I do not understand, because in every other way you're a reasonable man. But anything you do is alright by me, just as long as you don't disturb my sleep. But your gallstones keep us up at night, and still you're the great love of my life. You were always cold, and I'm a sweat machine. You can read more than I can breathe. You're the great love of my life. You're the great love of my life. You are the greatest love of my life. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your wonderful comments in the chat. I just really appreciate it. And I know we're gonna have time for sharing. I'm gonna turn it back over to Jacquelyn, and she's gonna facilitate that. And I saw earlier, I haven't been able to see everybody in the room, but I did see that Glen's siblings are here, so I want to honor them, Ruben and Neil and Joanna. Thank you. So I'll turn it back over to you, Jacquelyn.
Thank you, Yolanda. I love the song, and I loved hearing the stories about you all. They're fabulous. They're just fabulous. You all, yes, just so wonderful together. Now, I'm going to open this up for other folks to share. But what I'd like for you to do is raise your electronic hand. That will put you in the top left-hand corner of my pictures here, and I'll be able to call on you that way. So, yes, go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, wow. It worked quick. Thank you so much. Thank you, Yolanda, and everybody. And, just I wrote in the chat when you were singing, the energy you both had and created was just wonderful to be around. And I'm so grateful I got to be a part of it. I met you at Sanctuary. Thank you, Jane. And I remember Ramsey tells the story of Glen always dancing to the music after service. And I got pulled into that energy, and then Course in Miracles there, and then we continue on Wednesdays now. So there's a Jewish teaching that I've been living, with my parents this year. And my mother taught me, she wasn't that Jewish, but that the people who you love are always with you. So they're alive. Glen is alive. I feel he's alive. That's all. And Yolanda, I got to be with you on that night in the hospital, and your faith, and he'd be so proud of you by living what he taught and what you believed, and with such spirit. It's amazing. So anyway, thank you. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Aaron. I forgot to actually mention that. I really wanted to say to everyone that the night Glen passed, it was so incredible. Sina called me on the phone out of the blue while I was in the cab going to meet Aaron, who was joining me at Glen's bedside. And while we were there, our friend Ramsey that Aaron mentioned called on the phone, and it was just so incredible that those three energies were together that night at Glen's passing. And Aaron, it means the world to me that you were there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, who else would like to share? Adam.
Hi, everyone, and hi, Yolanda. um, I know it's only been a couple days since we've seen each other, but I'm just so glad that I can be here with you tonight. Your songs were just beautiful, as were Cam and Ellie's. I've been thinking, and I remember the first time I met Yolanda. I don't remember the absolute first time that I met Glen, but I do remember being with both of you for the first time at Easton Mountain. And for those that don't know, Easton Mountain is a LGBT retreat center in upstate New York. And there's multiple people in here that I've met up there, Wayne and Bill and Mac. And I remember the first time we were all there together, Glen was actually my small group leader. And this was when I was at the very beginning of trying to figure out who I was as a human being and not just as a performer or a professional. And it was the first time that I heard Glen say, "Trust the voice that likes you." And he said so many wonderful things the weekend that we were there. And he sort of made me realize that I hadn't known that I had a voice inside that liked me. And it was him that put me on the path to a fuller existence. And then, of course, I became very involved with Church with the 2-Drink Minimum for a couple of years. And I remember when you first asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. And of course, my first remark was, "Well, I'm Jewish." And and of course you said it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It is, interfaith, interspiritual, God optional. And and then that started my journey with the both of you on expanding my sense of spirituality. And of course, every month, not only would we sing, but Glen would get up and give a sermon or a speech and talking about the chaos theory and it was always so mind-blowing to hear him speak, because his passion was so, it could fill a room, faster than a smoke bomb. It really, it was just unbelievable how passionate he was, how sure of himself he was, how much he believed. And it was working with you and with him that helped me expand my sense of spirituality, that even while it's still very rooted in Judaism, I feel now is so much larger and so much richer. And I'm so grateful to him and to you. And of course, some of my happiest memories will be seeing him dance to Let Go of Grievances, dance the day we made the video. And I'm just, those are the memories that are going to stay forefront in my mind, because they're so attached to the love that I feel for Glen. And I love you, Yolanda.
Thank you, Adam. Wayne?
Yes. As Adam mentioned, I met Glen and Yolanda up at Easton Mountain. And my favorite memory of Glen is him doing, I call it the head, shoulders, knees, and toes song, but it's the Let Go of Grievances that Adam just mentioned. And he is so passionate about doing all the movements to that and getting everybody hooked in, and let go of grievances and we are free. And he is free, and we need to remember that we're free too. And that's just one of my favorite memories of him, is he just gets so into it all. When he led that, when you did your gospel brunch up there, Yolanda, and that's one memory I will always have and cherish from those times. I love you.
Oh, sweet. Thank you. I never could get those moves right myself, but Glen sure did. Yeah. Yeah, Yolanda's still trying to teach me. Yeah, that was awesome. I want to, Melanie, did you have your hand up? Did you want to speak? Because I didn't want to skip you.
I did, yes. Hi, Yolanda. I miss you. I miss Glen. Hi, Carolyn. I miss you too. I just want to very, very briefly say that the thing that I loved about Glen was that he always made me feel like I was the most special person in the room. And I think he probably made everybody feel that way, but I didn't care, because everybody likes to feel like they're the most special person in the room. And I just so appreciated the love and the generosity that I always got from him. And I will always be grateful to him for that. And Yolanda, I've told you this before, but please, if you want to talk, just call me. I'm here for you, okay? I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Jane?
Hi, everybody. Oh, Yolanda, hi. I love you so much. And send love to everybody here. It's interesting. I was trying to write down. I was trying to say, I'm not surprised at all that Glen started beeping in when you mentioned me. Glen and I had what I might call, I wrote down, this says, looks like I'm done talking. I just started, but anyway, whoever's running that. Okay, maybe that was Glen too. An irascible interface with one another. That's really the best way I can describe our connection with each other. I won't go into how we all got going. We had invited you, Yolanda, to be part of helping us try to figure out. We were trying to not just go under, after Sacred Center closed abruptly, and we were trying to figure out an organizational plan. Glen and I had, philosophical differences about leadership, basically. And he was very outspoken about that. And I was just trying to figure out, who's on first, what's on second, shall we attempt to do this? But anyway, he was always extremely, very outspoken and very, demanding in certain ways. He would tell me he was so mad at me because of the conditions at West Park. I mean, we didn't have a place to meet. We were horrified at the conditions there too. But he would come and tell me like it was my fault. And he loved to horrify me with his tales of eating raccoon, killing and eating raccoons. And he would tell me, I love it. And he would tell me 100 times I've heard about that. Here's the thing about Glen. I really admired Glen. And when I was living on 149th Street in an apartment I loved, I had a backyard. And I loved that backyard. And I told Glen, I feel like crying saying this. I said to Glen, I really want to plant this backyard, like do something back there. It had been abused in many ways. And I was back there gardening and trying to make it. And I said, do you have any ideas? He said, oh, I can absolutely design something for you. And I said, okay, great. And honestly, he gave me the most unbelievable potential design of that entire yard. I wish I had been able to pull it off. It was unbelievable. And it showed me his spatial intelligence, his whatever that Rumi poem is, whatever he brought in with him from wherever he came from. It showed me so much about his brilliance and his generosity, because he could have said, oh, you could put a few things over here, a few things. He designed this gorgeous potential backyard. Now, it didn't really come into fruition because things were pretty rock and rolly during those years, but what a wonderful creative experiment all of that was. And I'm so, I'm so grateful to have known and continue to know Glen. He was challenging for me, and I think I was for him too, but I love him and I love you. And I wanted to share that honest reflection of my, what did I wrote down? Irascible interface with this wonderful Quixote trickster God.
Thank you, Jane. That's so Glen. Yeah, that's perfect. Glen and I taught a couple of programs together here in Awakening Together, and he had them all, planned out and what was going to happen when and how many pages a week. And yeah, that's so Glen. I miss him. I love him dearly. I love you too, Yolanda. Beverly.
Hi. Hey, Yolanda. I probably, known Glen least of everyone who's spoken, but I just wanted to share. I think my first introduction to the both of you was the church with the 2-drink minimum, and just that title alone just like sent me like I have to watch this program. I grew up in the church. My dad's a minister. I was like, I can't resist. And so I called my sister up. I'm like, you have to watch it. You have to watch it. And it was like, I was like, you get a good recipe, you get some humor, you get good singing, you get a sermon, you get all of it, And I was just, we really, enjoyed you both. And then, when I did hear of Glen's passing, I just, there's some people I do think that no matter how long you've known them for, they just impact your being in such a way that is, you can't put words to. And when I was reading, he was saying, listen to the voice that loves you. My daughter, who's often in and out going through some stuff, and whenever I dull my spiritual knowledge, she's like, man, And so I don't know why I felt the need to say this to her. She was going through her little anxiety thing, and I was like, listen to the voice that loves you, and she just froze. and had no words for me. She just fell silent with that. And I just was like, for me, it just spoke to just how the beingness of each one of us, whether we're here or not, it ripples into infinity and impacts everyone who has had the privilege of just being in that energy and space. And so I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Beverly. Ruth and Brad.
I'm going to try to talk. I met Glen in the 90s when he lived in Kansas City. We worked together. And he was just a very special person. We used to spend time together on the weekends at a place called Gaia. And we used to lay on our backs under the stars late at night, talking about life, love, philosophy, just about anything we could think of. And he always made me feel so special. And when he moved to New York, I thought I lost him. And I have to say that thanks to social media, I was able to reconnect with him again over the years. And I'm really happy that I was able to find him again. And that in 2021, I was able to visit him in New York City and meet Yolanda for the first time. Yolanda is such a special person as well. And I was really happy to get to see you together and see in person just how happy he really was with you both. And I just want to thank you again, Yolanda, for welcoming us when we came to visit, and tell you how much he's going to be missed from us as well as everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your share. Would anyone else like to share? So now Cam Kennedy has agreed to lead us in a musical meditation. Oh, I see I got spotlighted. So I lost, I was trying to look, no, it was good. I was trying to look for Cam, make sure he's here. Oh, and Yolanda wants to speak. Yolanda, you go first, honey.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say one thing before I forget it. And it is this. I know that Glen left this planet completely loved, completely seen, and completely heard. And everything that we might have had a problem with in our relationship or disagreed upon or had an argument about, had we completely and totally talked about everything. And he left this planet knowing that I was safe and that everything that we had gone through together was sacred, holy, and everything that he shared with everybody in our time, in these last 20 years, was so important to him. And he loved it all, whether he was in his irascible state or in his, sweet state. He was all of those things, and he wasn't afraid of any of them. And any of the aspects of who he was so authentic. And I learned so much from that. And our relationship grounded me. And now I feel so much stronger. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure I said that, because every one of you in this room played such an important role in my life and in his. So know that everything that might have transpired was all love. Absolutely all love. So thank you.
you, Rev. Yolanda, and thank all of you who have joined us this evening in honor of this incredible man and his incredible life. He will forever be missed. We will always love him. And Cam, if you'll lead us in a musical meditation, we'll close the evening out with that. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Okay. Well, okay. All of a sudden, my guitar isn't working. There we go. This we thought might be appropriate because sometimes when we go through transitions, we think of our connections with everything. And this particular song is a part of my connection. I'm Scotch-Irish. I'm not sure what Glen was. This is just a gentle song about love.
beautiful like a song. And winter snow is beautiful. All of the winter long. You little son, come safely home, riding the tail of the wind. May you always come safely home through winter, fire and snow. Days get dark uneasily, darker and darker still, and you have gone to carnival. I feel the winter chill. And you little son, come safely home, riding the tail of the wind. May you always come safely home through winter, fire and snow. Son, come safely home, huh?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to say a couple of things before we go. We're going to wrap it up now. But first of all, thank you, everyone. Everyone, thank you so much for coming. And I have 4 quotes, I think. I want to thank Cam and Ellie for the gorgeous music. Thank you so very, very much. It was absolutely beautiful. And for the song, The Voice That Lights You, you have to record that and send it to me. Oh, goodness. Thank you for all your wonderful comments in the chat. Thank you, everybody that spoke. I want to say a couple of things that Glen always said. Jen, our friend Jen, wrote in the chat, 3 Glen mantras I repeat often, whether to myself or to others. Listen to the voice that likes you. Peace is here. And say hi to everyone. He used to say that to everyone. Say hi to everyone. You know. He would also say, when he would call me on the phone after work, he would call me every day after work at 5 p.m. and say, I'm just walking down the street saying hi to everybody I meet. But I want to leave us with this 2 quotes from A Course in Miracles that he absolutely loved. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein Lies the Peace of God. And of course, Herein Lies the Peace of God was the title of the program that he and Jacquelyn facilitated together, and that was such a great joy for him. He felt so honored to do that with you, Jacquelyn. And then the other thing that strikes me to say is this other quote from A Course in Miracles. Holy are you, and in your light the world reflects your holiness, for you are not alone and friendless. I give thanks for you and join your efforts on behalf of God, knowing they are on my behalf as well, and for all those who walk to God with me. Thank you, my friends. I really appreciate your love and support. Blessings.